Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not So Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Lucifer, as well as the latest episode of Supergirl, as well as the latest episode of iZombie. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I said about the season finale of Lucifer, you can skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of Supergirl, and or skip to what I had to say about this week's episode of iZombie. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is the season finale of Lucifer. A great season finale, a lot of interesting twists and turns this finale, and we're going to break everything down. I really appreciate the thing Lucifer was saying in the beginning, because he's trying to make Chloe feel better, because it's like, yeah, we miss Charlotte, but it's like, he's like, but hey, you'll see Charlotte again when you go to heaven. He's like, for me, I won't be that lucky. I'll never be able to see her again. It's like, right, it's like, not even just the whole devil thing. It's just kind of like, oh, you kind of been banished from heaven. I mean, I don't know if there's ever an expiration date on that banishment, so it's not like he's talked to his dad in a very long time, so who knows how that whole situation will go. But, yeah, I mean, I just thought that was kind of a sweet sentiment. And also the fact is Lucifer actually cared about Dan, because it's like, how's Daniel holding up? Like, obviously, like, he jokes around a lot, but this is like one moment where he's like, serious, like, no, how is Dan doing? Like, can't imagine what they're going through right now, And I kind of wasn't expecting it to be like right at the beginning of the episode, but like they immediately found out about Pierce because Dan investigated, like went to Charlotte's place. The moment he was at Charlotte's place, like, oh, he's going to find the file about her investigating Pierce, doesn't he? And it's like, yep, he does. And it's like, he goes to Chloe and is like, he's the sinner, man. And Chloe's like, I know you're under a lot of stress. And Lucifer's like, no, he's the sinner, man. It's like, how do you know? He told me like months ago. It's like, what? You've been sitting on his... He's like, I literally told you that. She's like, yeah, you told me that he was some immortal. He's like, and if I actually told you he was the sinner, man, would you have really listened to me? And she's like, ugh. So it turns to that whole situation. You even have Chloe calling him out. It's like, Pierce never gets emotional. It's like that. The moment he put on those tears and stuff like that, getting emotional like that, she's like, I know he did it. So it was really nice getting everyone coming together, because obviously, like, they kind of kept, like, Ella out in the dark a little bit, just because like Pierce walked in when they wanted to try and tell her the truth. I love that dude that was kind of getting framed, Steve, and you're just kind of like, they're like, he's like, whoa, I didn't, we know you did. He's like, wait, what? No, is this some reverse psychology stuff? He's like, if I were to hide the gun anywhere, it'd be in my desk, but you're not going to find, holy crap, I'm being framed. It's like, shut up, idiot, we told you, we believe you. I like that twist too, where it's kind of like, oh, we're going to go to Ella for help. And at first she plays it like, I thought like, oh, because I was curious. I was like, did Dan tell her everything? I was like, well, maybe they'd be afraid to tell her everything because maybe they feel like she won't be able to act in front of Pierce. But because I was like, oh, maybe they didn't tell her because she went and told Pierce anyway. I'm gonna see the whole pacing back and forth in front of his office, which that shows you how good of a performer Ella is. She's super good. Like, I was like, did they tell her? Did he? And I was like, oh, they must not have told her since you. I mean, obviously, I figured that was part of the plan. It's like, leave her in the dark so she can trick Pierce into, making a move. But it's like, no, she was a part of it the entire time. They told her everything. I was like, that's a nice touch. I even love Ella kind of getting a little mad, being like, if it came down to it, she's like, I just wanted to rip his throat out. I was like, whoa, you never hear Ella like that, because she's the one with the like happy disposition. Like, she's got her own struggles and stuff like that, but she never lets it show. She always has like a smile on her face. I did appreciate her giving Dan a hug. She's like, no, that's not what I meant. She's like, no, come on. And she hugged him, and he hugged her back, because it's like, no matter what the circumstances, it's like, it's an Ella hug. You gotta say yes to an Ella hug, because she gives like the best hugs ever. I wonder if that's something Amy Garcia ever gets complimented on. I'm just one of those things. It's kind of like, oh, your character's kind of known for their hugs. Like, are you known for your hugs or something? I know it's something stupid, but just kind of crossing my mind. It's actually interesting, because it seems like this is the first episode Dan ever saw Lucifer's thing. Well, he's seen it in action before, but I guess it's just because he's been around Lucifer when he's done that, right? The whole like asking people their desires thing, because he's like, oh, you're trying to do a parlor trick right now? But Chloe's like, no. Yes, it seems a little stupid, but actually it works. And it's like, holy crap. It's like, has Dan never seen that the entire series? I was like, that's crazy if that's the case. That just kind of blew my mind to think about that. But it's like, oh, I feel like he has to have done it, but maybe he did think it was all part of tricks and stuff. Like, he's like, no, this is a serious thing, and you're trying to do tricks right now. But it's like, no, it helps in the long run. But I really appreciate that conversation between Lucifer and Pierce, because it gave the answer I thought. Because like Lucifer's perspective on everything after meeting that dude, it kind of gave him a new perspective on a lot of things about himself as well as Pierce. When it came to Pierce, it's exactly what I thought. It's like the reason why you lost your mark is for once in your life, like you did something out of selflessness. You weren't just doing it for selfish. I was like, that was my exact thought about why he lost his mark in the first place. It could only be that, it's like I didn't believe it's like the whole Chloe loves you situation. I was like, no, because you were non-selfish for once in your life. You put your desires before her, like you put her before your desires of being mortal and stuff like that, the thing that you've desired for such a long time, and that's why you were rewarded because it's like, oh, I deserve to be mortal so that I can have love in my life. And that's what it comes down to. It's kind of what Lucifer thinks. It kind of makes sense too, because it's like when you look at what hell represents you. Like you feeling guilty is why you go to hell, which plays into a part of the episode, obviously, I'm going to get to soon enough. But it also reflects with Lucifer, too, because Lucifer is like, I led the rebellion. Everyone was pissed at me. The fact of the matter is, it never comes up in conversation about the rest of who else was in that rebellion with him. Obviously, not all of his brothers were, because, everyone else was in heaven. So, but like that, were there some of his brothers and sisters that joined him in that rebellion? Are they stuck in hell, or did they lose their wings and became demons? Why was he the only one kind of left? I mean, it's kind of like Lucifer's mind was like everyone hated him for it, and he hated himself. And it's like I looked in the reflection and saw a monster because that's how I saw myself. Like I thought I was a monster, so I had a monstrous appearance. But it's like because he started developing feelings for Chloe, wanting her to show her the real side of him. He started to see a different side of him. It's like God didn't do this to me. It wasn't the sinner man. It was something he did himself. It was just kind of like, because that's what I was wondering this entire, like, oh yeah, the sinner man, the quote unquote sinner man, that's like, that being the dude that Pierce ended up killing, like who's kind of like a son / little brother to him, whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, so how did he do it? It's like magic. I was like, no, Lucifer did it to himself inadvertently, subconsciously, because it's like he stopped looking at himself like that because Chloe stopped looking at him like a devil. So that's why his devil face and everything went away, why he got his wings. I was like, that's fascinating, dude. That was just kind of an interesting perspective, and I like that twist turning on all like that. And also curious that could potentially set up stuff for the future for Lucifer too, because it's like I said, I'd love to know more about the rest of the other people, like who else joined him in this little rebellion against his dad. It's actually interesting too, because even Ella was kind of like, for the first time, Lucifer's like, honestly, I don't think my dad is responsible. For the first time, he's like, I'm realizing that honestly, we're all, we're kind of responsible for our own destinies, essentially. It's like, he's like, it's actually kind of evil genius in an evil way that ultimately when it's all said and done, we don't have anyone to blame but ourselves. But Ella's like, nope, I'm blaming Pierce for this. And she's like, I'm also, her and the big guy are on odds, which is like interesting because, like Ella's a very like religious person. And so for her to say that too, it's just because for her, it's like all the bad stuff that happened, especially to someone that they cared about, Her and Charlotte had a complicated relationship, but she liked Charlotte, especially because Charlotte was trying to turn things around, and it's like, that was a friend, I even love, like, Ella saying about it. It's like, I would kind of have my doubts about the whole Pierce situation, but it's like, yo, we're Team OG, as I heard Dan, Lucifer, and Chloe. It's like, we're Team OG, so obviously I got your back. When you tell me what was going down, of course I'm going to believe you, So, which gotta hurt Ella, too, because Ella really, really liked Pierce, too. It's like, obviously. Which just makes that situation even sadder, So I'm surprised. I mean, I'm going to talk about it, but the whole Maze situation, for one, Maze kicking serious ass, killed every single one of those dudes watching over because they underestimated her. Bloodied up, obviously still, like, she wasn't even at 100 because of her fight with Pierce, but also because she was still drugged up. So she killed all those dudes, raced over to Linda's, and that poor bastard. He's like, you're right, doctor. Just because I'm thinking it doesn't mean that everyone's after me. Leaves, got a knife to his neck from, Maze, and it's like, okay, so he's going to be scared for the rest of his life. That doesn't come up that often. It comes up every once in a while here and there, but like seeing Linda's other patients is kind of a nice touch. But I do like that this was mending fences between her and Linda, because it's like, because once again, it's the whole emotion thing. She's like, I've spent so much time here. I've become human. I've been weak. But Linda's like, no, look at what you've done. You literally went through a whole bunch of people, ran all the way here, even in your state. Why? Because you cared about me. And it's like, your caring doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger, which plays a part in the episode too. But I'll get to that soon enough. And it's like, they mend fences. They apologize. I'm like, yeah, they're good again. I actually thought the whole May situation was going to play a bigger role in the episode, especially considering she knew about everything. That's what I kind of assumed. But I also like that this episode played into Dan's dark side too, because it's like, and it's like, honestly, that would piss me off too. What Dan was like, yeah, you know what? The first time I met Pierce, you know what he said to me? That I'm a corrupt cop, which at the time pissed me off. Which, Dan made his mistakes in the past, but he's been doing everything he can to make up for that. And it's so interesting because when it came down to it, he was just kind of like, but the fact of the matter is, I have done a lot of terrible things, which includes having a guy set up to be killed. The dude who killed the warden dude who killed Chloe's dad. He's like, I've done a lot of terrible things. I've gotten rid of evidence and stuff like that. But you know what? If it means like killing the man who tried to kill me with the gun that was used to kill the woman I love, don't think for a second I won't do it. That dude needs to get his ass kicked later on too, because he set the whole thing up. It's like, oh, my sister's in trouble and everything, which even that shows a lot because Pierce was kind of into the lie. I also love that Pierce was like, Chloe's talking to Pierce. It's like, yeah, he said that you were immortal and that you were Cain. And Dan looks at Lucifer's like, what, really? And Dan's like, what? I mean, Lucifer's like, what? It's true. It's like, no matter what you say, like, no one's gonna 100% believe you. But when it came down to it, that final showdown was so good. Like, obviously, Chloe was like, I'm going to make sure I take you down before you take me down. Shoots Pierce, but Pierce shoots her, and it sets Lucifer off, and his wings shield. Like, feathers are flying, the bullets are hitting him, like, his wings are bloodied and everything. Luckily, he was able to get Chloe out of there. And then went proceeding to kill. I love that he used his wings for combat. I like that. Just kind of knocking people down, sweeping them off their feet. And everyone else there is tripping because it's like, they didn't react. They were scared, but it's like, what the hell is going on here? He's got his wings and everything. And then Lucifer put them back in that one-on-one fight with Pierce. He said the demon blade could kill Lucifer. I thought it couldn't. I thought it could hurt like hell, but they couldn't actually kill him. Maybe it's a different blade, but I thought that was the whole point. Like, I could have sworn they brought that up in like season 1. I thought Pierce, like, I could have sworn Lucifer was kind of like, yeah, it can't kill me. It can hurt like hell. Or maybe he did say it was like the only thing that could kill him. Maybe it is. Because I knew Pierce was going to get that blade. I thought he was going to get it like last episode. I didn't expect him to kind of only pick it up this episode. I mean, I guess he just kind of looked through the rubble and stuff like that and found it. I mean, after like, Maze made a mess, like dispatching of everybody. So, but that little one-on-one, and it's interesting because you don't get to see Lucifer fight that much, but you can also see how skilled he actually is, and he took Pierce down. And then Pierce is like, well, it doesn't. He's like, I don't know why I was so scared of dying. He was like, now I'm at peace. I get to go to heaven. And Lucifer's like, you idiot. Going to heaven for what? He's like, I never felt guilty. It's like, well, yeah, that was about your brother. Sure. But this is about Charlotte. Charlotte was innocent. You were trying to kill my brother, which I love that whole conversation. Like, wait, you telling me that you were trying to kill Charlotte by accident because you were trying to kill my brother? Is that supposed to make things better? But it's like, I was actually halfway expecting it so that like he was actually going to get his mark back because of what he did. Like, I thought it was going to come back, but I guess it didn't. I guess because having that mark isn't punishment enough. I guess it's like he has to go to hell for punishment. I guess that's kind of almost God's, I don't know. Maybe in his own right, maybe God did kind of interfere there and didn't give him his mark back. I don't know. But Pierce, it's like you will feel guilt about Charlotte because she wasn't planned, but you still went through with it anyway. The fact of the matter is he covered it up and stuff like that too, like, shows a guilty conscience as well and stuff like that. So I like that aspect, and it's like, oh, you're going to go to hell. Like, you're going to have to suffer and live with this in hell. Like, so don't think you're going to get some happily ever after. But Lucifer's face starts changing. His eyes comes back. His skin starts burning. And he's like, yeah, you say that about me. Because he's like, you can't run from what you are and what you've done, which Pierce dies laughing, saying that you can't do it either. So when it's all said and done, Lucifer, I guess because Lucifer sees himself as the monster again. I guess that's what that's supposed to be. Like I guess his wings are completely gone now because this is the first time Lucifer's ever killed anyone subsequently since his new situation. And I guess in his mind, it's like, I have to be the monster to put this even worse monster down. So it's like, damn yourself to like rid everyone of this problem, or maybe just killing Pierce kind of set him back in that sense. I mean, it's hard to really say what that could be representing. And it's so sad because, like, for Chloe, she's like, I don't see you that way anymore, She's like, yeah, I'm done with all the metaphors and stuff like that. You're not the devil. Like I said, that's not how I see you anymore. And Lucifer's like, yeah, for the first time, I'm starting to think that's not how I see me either. But maybe that's what this represents. Obviously, he didn't realize it at that time, and Chloe came up to him and she sees his devil face and realizes it's all true. Biggest freaking cliffhanger you can leave this on. Obviously, like I said, a great finale. I don't know if this is getting renewed for a 4th season. I hope on everything it is. Usually it tells you at the end of the season what gets renewed or not. It doesn't say anything. But I hope that it is like, no, I hope Fox is like, nah, it is coming back for a 4th season. Because from here on out, everything changes. Because of course, like, Maze might just get what she wanted without even trying. Like, she wasn't trying anymore, but she might get what she wanted. Because, like, Lucifer might decide he wants to leave. I actually thought, interesting enough, I thought that's what was going to happen when he was talking about Lucifer, like, has a weakness. I thought he was going to try and use Maze. I mean, he tried to use Maze later on, try to use, I guess, a bargaining chip. But it's like, yeah, you were stupid to think you could kind of keep a demon locked up like that. But in fact, I mean, Maze might not want to leave anymore because things between her and Linda are good now. So she'll probably mend fences with everybody. And then when it comes to, I mean, it's going to be interesting too, because like, Maze talks about being a demon and stuff like that. Now Chloe knows the truth. We're kind of, and sadly, when you actually think about it, that means we're back to 2 people who know the truth, because Charlotte knew the truth. So even though she never interacted with Maze, she knew everything about the whole Celestial situation. But it's like now Chloe kind of is the new replacement for that, because now she knows everything, which makes, if they do go forward, like, even her relationship with Maze won't be the same. It's like, oh no, I know we're friends and everything, but how can I let you be around my child anymore knowing what you are? So it might, like, Maze might not want to leave anymore, but she might be hurt because it's like she can't mend fences with Chloe. She might blame Lucifer for it, because it's like, but Lucifer finally tells her the truth because he loved her and she knows the truth now. So the question is, will she accept him? Will she push him away? She said that she doesn't look at him as a devil anymore, but now she sees this. It could change everything, you know? This could be what ends up pushing him to decide to leave, or, you know, how will their working relationship go forward? Her knowing the truth about Lucifer, but no one else knowing. I mean, she has Linda she can talk about this whole, like, Celestial situation. That had to be scary, too, for Linda. She's like, so someone's trying to kill me? And May says, don't worry, you're good. Because, like, you know, she's already been through this once with the whole Charlotte situation. I think for Lucifer saying that was probably, like, what really started it for him, too. The fact is that he didn't kill his mom when he had the chance, that he kind of looked at things from a different perspective and gave her an out, kind of showed, like, hey, you know, he's not the same person, all about punishment and stuff like that. So he isn't the devil that he once was, so... Like I said, it raises a lot of questions. Makes you wonder, will we see Pierce in hell? I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, the goddess's situation is different. She is a goddess, so she could escape hell when she needed to. But, like, I'd love that to be kind of a storyline of, like, more escape people from hell, you know. I mean, obviously, this whole Charlotte situation is going to be his hell. Probably this entire, like, end of last episode and this episode. Hell, maybe his entire hell is this entire season reliving it over and over again, not being able to change anything no matter what he tried. So maybe that could be something that ends up happening. I don't know. Like I said, the thing I'm most curious about is, like, where will him and Chloe stand, like, potentially in a 4th season, like, now that she's seen what he really is. Will she, like I said, will she accept him? Will it just kind of like, we can be partners, but, like, you know, can you date the devil? You know, now she knows everything is true. Also, the situation comes down to a minute deal, too. Like, will he come back to Earth? That was kind of a big question. It's like, Lucifer's like, well, now that he's got his wings back, my brother might not ever find a need to come back. But, like, just as much as life here on Earth has become a life for Lucifer, even Maze, I think it's become one for a minute deal, too. Like, obviously, this is all he's ever wanted. But now it's like, it's bittersweet because it meant, like, having to take Charlotte to heaven. And I mean, to be fair, like, if he wanted to, he could go and see her whenever he wanted to. Unlike Lucifer or Maze, like, they wouldn't be able to, you know? So, I don't know, like, it's very interesting circumstances. I'm curious to see what, you know, like I said, they're coming back for a 4th season and what they would do about it. I mean, hell, wow, how would you explain that whole situation? I mean, there's a whole bunch of feathers everywhere all over that crime scene, so how do you explain that? And eventually, in a 4th season, would Dan find out? Would Ella find out? I mean, Ella being the religious person she is, would she look at Lucifer the same way as everyone else? Let me say, oh my God, have so many questions and stuff like that, which I'm sure Chloe would too. Like, is this and that? He's like, because he told her, he's like, I tell you the truth. She's like, you always tell me your truth. You know, whether it's 100%, like, obviously, but now she realizes, like, oh my God, you've been telling me the truth since the beginning. Like he said, he's never lied to Chloe. I mean, you could make the argument, it's more of an omission in truth rather than a lie, but like how he actually feels about her, you know, so. Now it also is going to be in her head like, oh wow, so that means I really was dating Kane, the first murder. Like, I'm so curious to see what Chloe's like new life would be like now that she knows. Like, obviously, like Linda's life Linda's kind of kept everything a little normal. Obviously, she acts like a therapist to the Celestial and a demon, and she's besties with a demon, so it's kind of like, who knows? Also makes you wonder, will there ever be her and Amenadiel in the future? Probably not. After all that drama it caused between her, Linda, and Maze, maybe she wouldn't look at things the same way. I'm also curious, like, where Maze and Lucifer would stand in the next season, too. Like, they've always kind of had a very, very complicated relationship, especially, like, with this whole Pierce situation. It got super complicated and led to things kind of playing out the way it did. I mean, will Lucifer know that she was part of this plan, but she backed out, so I am curious, like, will Lucifer hold that against her? Will he really know? Will May just break down and tell him one day? I'm just curious how it all will play out in the end. So, like I said, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that this does get renewed for a 4th season. And now moving on to this week's episode of Supergirl, a great episode. I like the overall message of this episode, kind of like, don't bury stuff, because when you try to bury stuff just to protect someone, all it does is kind of come back and it backlashes you in a big way. And that's kind of like the big premise of this episode, all across the board. There's so many secrets and so many things that aren't told, and it just kind of bubbles into the surface until it causes more problems. Obviously, with things kind of being the way they are, it's like Emra and Brady are like, oh, we should leave because we're not needed anymore, and Emra's needed in the future, potentially by the future. It's kind of interesting because they immediately answer the question I've been having. It's like, well, obviously Reign's still dangerous because she absorbed Pestilence's ability, so she could grow to be Blight. It's like, no, apparently not. It's like now that Pestilence is gone, like there is no transformation to Blight, which I think is kind of interesting. I guess because of everything that Reign is, because she absorbed all 3 of their abilities, she's stronger, but maybe like some of their innate abilities aren't as, it may be her, because it's fused with those other 3, the other 2 abilities, that maybe her power, like Pestilence's abilities, have mutated, so they don't have the potential of being further mutated. Like that potential mutation that could have gone through is no longer applicable because it's in Reign's body and her chemistry is a lot different, so it kind of nullifies that potential in everything that Pestilence was. I'm guessing. I don't know. That's my justification for it, but that's kind of neat that they kind of answered that immediately. I also like to find out that Brady bugged the plant. It's like the dirt that he gave Wynn, because apparently Wynn collects dirt. That's kind of interesting. But it's like, why would you do that? He's like, I don't know, just wanted to keep in contact because, I kind of like those guys and everything. So it's like, I guess when they go back to the future, he could always listen into conversations like, oh my God, I'm tapped into Supergirl and the DEO and everything they're up to. I thought that was kind of interesting. But who's to say that, Wynn would actually keep, not unless he keeps it there at the DEO, like maybe at his desk or something, or in his locker, but maybe it has enough like reach where it's like, yeah, even if it's as long as it's somewhere in the building, you can hear everything that's going down. Maybe it has like a huge, large reach because it is from the future and everything. So like, but obviously this is a big part of the episode. Big part of the episode is about Reign. She's kind of going on her rampage. She goes after Lena because she's looking for Ruby. She even goes after Sam's mom, Patricia, or her adopted mom. And it's sad because Patricia's mom has so much regret. Like, it's like, I kicked my daughter out. I knew what she was kind of all about, but rather than trying to understand everything and hold her and keep her close, I pushed her away. And that was her biggest regret. And that's what she wanted to do this episode, try to make up for her. It's like, but sadly it was too late because maybe she could have reached Sam before, but in this case, or maybe you can make the argument because Sam holds so much resentment towards her mom that it just kind of fueled Reign wanting to kill her even more. To be fair, it's also because, like, Ruby is the ties that keep Sam to being human. Maybe the whole point was wiping out all ties, so potentially going after Lena would kind of help with that, but also killing her mom, no matter how strained the relationship is. Like, the fact is cutting all ties with her human life would kind of weaken Sam's, like, grip even more. Definitely the most with Ruby, but still. Even in the end, she's kind of like, this isn't who you are. You're a good person. You're nothing like me. I was a terrible mom. You were a good person despite how I raised you and who I was, So it's sad that it came down to that. It's sad that even Ruby never even got to meet her grandmother once, And that's something Patricia had thought about too. It's like she never got to meet Ruby under all these circumstances. And she kind of had no one to blame but herself. Because in her own way, in her own selfish way, she was trying to protect Sam just kind of almost hoping that the problem would go away. Try to keep her at a distance because of that, but at the same time, it's just like all that does is cause more problem. It's interesting that in the place that Lena was hiding Ruby was Lex's old mansion. That was kind of a nice touch. I do think it's very interesting that Lillian has a poster up on her on the like Luther Manor wall like that. That's very interesting. Even a lady that's running the place, which is so weird that you're guarding a place that's invisible. I mean, I guess like, well, so when you're dealing with the Luthers, you kind of I wonder how long has she been working there? Like, I would assume Lena keeps her own staff or something like that. Maybe Lena specifically staffed her for this. So because maybe she's like, this was actually her first time there. It's like, I feel like that would take a little bit getting used to, but I don't know. Also makes you wonder what could be stashed away. There has to be some like Luther stuff like that Lex hid away in that, manner, so I don't know. But sadly, because Ruby was calling trying to call her mom, that's how Rain found. Because once again, Alex trying to protect her didn't tell her the truth, and that led to things kind of turn out the way they did. Sam. God, I'm sorry. Ruby finding out the truth about her mom being Rain. That was kind of a nice combo that Mon-El and Kara did, kind of like both wrapping her arms and then like sliding and going up and above like at the same time. That was a kind of pretty sick move. Because the thing is, with all of this, like Kara is kind of like still outmatched when it comes to Rain, but that's why Mon-El was staying behind just to give them an upper hand. Because obviously John wasn't in a state to really fight in this episode because of the first run-in with her. Because now they know she has powers of all three world killers, so. Well, the other two world killers. I did like the whole Mon-El like crushing down the kryptonite and putting it in that turret gun and using that to kind of take Rain down. So, obviously the biggest part of this episode was the whole aspect of Lena and Kara's relationship. That's where we're walking away from this episode with like, because Lena came to Kara and told her like, "Yep, I can make kryptonite," which Kara was upset. Which 100% I think rightfully so. Like, you are literally tampering with the one thing in the world that could easily kill her. Like, one of the known substances that if anyone... Because the thing is, like, Lena tries to spin it where you can understand it. It's like, okay, like, humans live every day where it's like, there's literally everything around in the world that could end up killing me. And this is just the one thing that you have to kill. But it's like, because it makes it that much more dangerous. This is the one thing that can kill her. It's like... it's like you literally rubbing poison in your face. Like, it's like having poison. It's like, oh, why are you getting so bent out of shape with my poison? It's like, you don't know what it's like to have kryptonite. It doesn't just hurt me, like, what it does, the feeling it gives her and stuff like that. But for Lena, it's like, oh, you have such a God complex. It's like, dude, your brother, as well as many people, have used that not just to hurt her, but also Superman. Do people not know that, like, I'm sure that's a public known thing, because Kara made that clear in the first season, didn't she, that, like, Superman's her cousin. Isn't that the whole, like, didn't she make that clear? So it's like, because not only did your brother attack someone, like, just like, oh, he's not just some other Kryptonian, that's family you were attacked. So obviously she's going to take it personal, and it's also a personal attack on her because she's like, if I'm not careful, like, that's a substance I have to avoid, because if I don't, it could literally lead to me dying, and it could impede me helping people. So it's like, obviously that whole, because like I said, everything kryptonite represents, it's personal for her, because you are forgetting, what is kryptonite? Oh yeah, kryptonite's also, yes, this is substance you made and stuff like that, but sure, you're forgetting that originally kryptonite is her exploded planet. So I'm thinking you're kind of forgetting that little emotional aspect that might come with it too. Like, yeah, not only is a reminder of her blown up planet, it's also material that can kill her and her cousin, so you can't help but take it personal if someone has, like I said, you understand Lena's side of things, but you also understand Kara's side of things. Besides, they put their beef aside to work together for this whole situation. But sadly, when Kara ends up running into Lena later on, she realized, because Jimmy was the one that kind of made her realize, it's like, no, if you go to Kara, she'll understand that this is important. And Kara did ultimately understand. But, when it comes to it, Lena's like, oh, I can never trust Kara again. Supergirl again. She used my relationship to get access to some stuff. It's like, Jimmy didn't check the vault because he trusts me. The fact of the matter, and the fact is that Supergirl doesn't, because for her, it's like, it's sad that even after, because it's something she brought up, even after all the goodwill, the moment the whole kryptonite thing came up, she looked at me like it just all went out the window. But it's like, you can't blame her. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the last time a Luthor had kryptonite, it didn't end well for Clark. Hell, even Clark's very protective of that shit. Like, what did he do last season when he found out about John having any stash away? He's like, oh yeah, he made sure to dispose of that quick. You know, yes, there's an argument, you know, because for them, because the one way that can be looked at is like, that means you don't trust us, is kind of the whole point. Because it can be seen as a personal attack, because it's like you keeping kryptonite on tap means that you don't trust us, that you are just waiting for us to go. But the thing is like, yeah, you can make the argument, yeah, Rain is weak to it, but at the same time, it's like, if you had discussed this with Supergirl first, maybe things would be different. But the thing is, I'll give it a strike against Lena for it. It's like, the fact of the matter is you went behind her back and made it. If you had worked with the DEO and worked with Supergirl, it's like, hey, I got a plan. I think I know how to manual. It's like, it's not going to be good. If you laid everything out in the front like that, maybe things wouldn't be where they are. Like, so like I said, it's the sad thing is it's fault with everybody, because Kara did what she did, but it was because of the circumstances. It's understandable why she did what she did. And I'm just so curious to see where this goes, because it's going to turn it like, I like, because it brings up that video I brought up a little while back about the whole Doom friendship thing. Like, no matter where it goes, Lex and Clark are destined to be enemies. So it's like, maybe, sadly, like, Kryptonians and Luthors just don't mix. Because who knows, maybe Lena might, I mean, especially, well, Lena might start looking at Kara, the same Supergirl, is like, yeah, she's a hero and everything, but it's like, oh, she's a hypocrite. Oh, she's got such a god complex. So, you know, so that, I feel like that's not, like, it's a ways away, but I feel like that's trudging down the roads of potentially where Lex could. And that's fascinating, because we could just be like a repeat of history. It's like I said, on this Earth 38, Clark and Lex were friends until Lex was just like, nah, screw you. I want Superman dead. I want Clark dead. You know, so it turns into that situation. So it's going to be like you know, a cycle, because it's like, can you break that cycle? Like, you hope that they can mend fences, but like, after hearing this, you know, Kara probably will never look at Lena the same, because now she knows no matter what Lena says, no matter what kind of front she puts up, it's like, she's only working with you because she has to. Yes, she cares about Sam, which is fine and dandy, but the fact of the matter is, she's just that she can never trust Kara again. Their friendship, even though, you know, her relationship, I mean, and I'm sure that's gonna make Kara even more secure about, like, I can never tell Lena the truth. Sour her relationship with my hero persona, but at the very least, we could still be best friends. But you know that's still going to hurt her a little bit, because every time, like, Lena badmouths Supergirl, which she will around Clark, it's like, oh, you're my best friend, so I'm going to tell you everything. And that's just going to hurt her a little bit more each time. So it's like, it's a complicated relationship. Like I said, it is fault on both sides. Like, it's not like Lena's not at fault here. I'm also curious what this means for Jimmy, because now she knows that Jimmy lied to her, and it's like, things got ugly. Because Jim, like, which isn't to say Jimmy isn't wrong about what he did. Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Trying to keep things honest between you, like, but you understand why she did. And I don't know. I don't know if her and Lena, like, Kara and Lena, well, Supergirl / Kara and Lena will ever get back to where they were. Like, Lena's kind of made up her mind that she can never trust her. I mean, there's situations that happen like this where they do come back from it, but it's like, I honestly don't know if they will. You know, like I said, it might just be a matter of time before they become enemies. You know, she might, you know, but the thing I was saying is, the moment she finds out Kara is Supergirl, it's going to be over, because that's something Lillian was getting at last season. Like, oh, moment my daughter finds out your real identity, I'm not going to tell her. I'm going to let her find out on her own, and then she's going to be devastated, because now where her and Supergirl stand, like, her and Kara still have a good relationship, but the moment she finds out, it's like, oh, so you've been lying to me this entire time, pretending to be my friend, and now it's also like, so the one who went behind my back to spy on me wasn't just Supergirl, it was my best friend, you know. So it's going to cut even deeper, because her and Supergirl are tight, but her and Kara are best friends. So, and you can tell it's most likely only going to be a matter of time before that comes out. Whether it's, I mean, because obviously Jimmy's not going to say anything, because no matter what, he's always going, it's like, oh, Lena's like, oh yeah, I have no more secrets, but it's like, Jimmy's got plenty of damn secrets. He's still keeping all of that, like keeping Kara's secret, even keeping Clark's secret a secret. So it's like, will you stab the people you care about a lot in the back for the woman you love? You know, it's sadly gonna be that situation, and maybe that might ultimately be where it is. I mean, I get the feeling, because Jimmy hasn't told her yet, because it's like, that's not my secret to tell. Like, I'll tell you my secret, sure, all the stuff that involves me, but that's Kara's secret. If she wants you to know, it's her decision to tell you, and that might end up pissing Lena off even more. Like I've already said before, like, yeah, Lena might be pissed because it's like, like, oh, you could have told me at any point in time, not just because of our, like, we're best friends, you could have told me at any time, but the fact that you didn't, it's like, oh, because you didn't trust me because I'm a Luthor. It's immediately one, you can't help but jump to that conclusion. I'm sure she can. So I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting. And like I said, I'm curious to see where her and Jimmy stand at the end of this, like Kara and him. So you also have Alex kind of stepping more in a role for Ruby, promising never to lie to her again. The fact is they're focusing on that a lot makes me think, like, so now that Ruby knows the truth and everything, which is going to be complicated, trying to live a normal life after that. I am curious to see whether anything comes about that, though, like, because obviously, like, Reign's not 100% human. To be fair, because her biology changes every time she turns into Reign, I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point in time during her pregnancy, she was Reign. I kind of feel like that's not the case. It was most likely, no, she was Sam the entire way. That's why Ruby's so normal, because her biology changes every time she turns into Reign. So she hasn't officially turned into Reign until now. Obviously, she's been like bouncing into it, but that's obviously like after Ruby's already been born and all that stuff. So I am curious to see, will there ever be anything from Ruby? I don't think so. Ruby would probably be 100% human. I mean, you never know. It could just be like, it just hasn't kicked in yet. I mean, the fact is that the lady's telling Reign to kind of kill her kind of makes it go, nah, she's probably 100% human. So at least where my mindset is. So, but that means Alex can't lie to her. From now on, she has to be 100% truthful. Kind of can't tell her. It has to be willing to tell her everything going forward. Other things this episode, obviously there's the whole John situation, which his dad was able to help out, kind of put things in a different perspective, because Kara was able to reach Reign because it's like, oh, kind of not using your beliefs, but theirs. It's like, you're all about ridding the world of evil and doing justice, then you can't kill this girl. She's done nothing wrong. She's an innocence. And you have this whole standard of like, you're trying to cleanse the world of evil, but then like, how are you going to do that by killing an innocent girl? That just makes you evil, So that stopped long enough for them to take her down, but obviously, they've got her locked up, but when Reign wakes up, will she be Sam or Reign? Most likely Reign. I mean, she could pretend to be Sam. I mean, I'm sure if need be, she can. Like, obviously, she can shift it on and off. But like, obviously, we haven't seen her trying to be Sam. But who's to say she doesn't try to play along to make them drop their guard? So we'll see. But going back to it is with John's dad. The sad situation is, obviously his dad's kind of depressed because it's like, oh, he feels useless. He can't really do anything. What was his way of escape and his most powerful tool, and that being his mind, now it's kind of locked away and he's losing it. John went to him and he helped out. He kind of was able to help them put that perspective into play, kind of looking at using your own enemy's beliefs against them to kind of catch them off guard and stuff like that. And sadly, John has that conversation with his dad, and then it's like, oh, joking and everything. And then like 30 seconds later, his dad repeats the same thing he had just said. So meaning his memory is fading that fast. And it's just like, you see just the sadness in John's eye. It's like, yeah, his dad is happier and everything. It's like, oh, things are good. But it's like with every one step forward, it's at least 3 steps back, so. Then the other side of things is the whole Imra and Mon-El situation. Because Imra knows that things are where they are. Like, she knows how complicated they are. Because it's like, she risked their lives as well as their relationship, their marriage, to complete this mission. And she still thinks it's the right thing to do. But she knows how hard this has been for Mon-El. Because she knows Mon-El's being with her out of duty. It's like, I don't want you to be with me out of duty because it's the right thing to do because we're married. It's like, no, I know you're an honorable man. You've buried your feelings, which is kind of plays in, like I said, to the nature of the episode. But it's like, I don't want you to have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. Like, I want you to just be 100% with me. So she's like, go be with Kara and help them out. Then set aside your whole, the complications. Because she kind of put Mon-El in this situation, so she's not trying to blame him. But it's like, no matter what it be, you stay here and that's your destiny, or you come back to the future. If you come back to the future, that means you have no doubt. So that's Mon-El's suggesting. Obviously, him and Kara train, but you can tell it's also for that. Because obviously, he's not telling Kara all the reasons why he's really here. Yes, it's to help out, but it's also to figure his heart out, because they're keeping up the whole like, oh yeah, I'm going to miss you as a friend. It's also interesting too, because he said a line of like, oh, John's going to miss you. He's like, don't worry, I'll see John in 1,000 years, meaning that I guess John is still around and kicking in that 1,000 years. To be fair, like, Kryptonians have long lifespans themselves. Obviously, this whole because season 2 kind of goes like, yeah, they age age slower than humans, so there's that. But like, I still don't know what the typical lifespan of a Kryptonian on Earth would be. Like, I'm sure even they eventually will die. Like, is it just naturally that their lifespans live that long, even on Krypton, or is it more so the yellow sun that kind of makes them? I'd assume it's probably more so the yellow sun, but nevertheless. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what Mon-El does. Once again, my money is him going back to the future, because I think, like, I don't know, like, ultimately it'll come down to what they decide. Like, that's going to be on both sides, because obviously Kara's kind of had to bury how she's had to feel about this whole situation. Same for Mon-El. They're both burying their feelings and like, oh, we're 100% okay, but it's like, we both know you're not. So the question then becomes like, what will you do? Will Mon-El be 100% okay or not? I kind of feel like I don't know, like, because I feel like I've always felt like he will return at the end of the season. Of like, no, he'll go back to the future because that's where he's needed, or maybe being here in the present day will be where he's needed. Hell, for all we know, Mon-El might just die at the end of the season. I don't know. That choice might not be kind of taken out of his hands. I don't know. This episode gave us a lot to think about. It's definitely going to be interesting seeing how everything is handled going forward. So I'm very interested to see what goes down in the next episode with all of this. Also interesting considering the fact that they've gotten Rain captured and everything. It's like, oh, how are we going to handle that situation? Like I said, we'll have to wait and see if they can find, Lena can find a means of curing her and on isolating the enzyme and everything. So, and now moving on to this week's episode of iZombie. A great episode, very bittersweet episode. A lot of amazing things went down in this episode, obviously, but a very sad episode too. Obviously, like, I'm just kind of talk about it, just kind of to get it out there. It's the whole Isabel situation. I did like that, like, obviously throughout the episode, she kept messing with everyone. Like, I like her perspective, because obviously Ravi knew everything she was doing was because it was kind of her defense mechanism. Like, she knew she was going to die, and it was just kind of her way of compensating. Was the fact is, like, hey, like, using her bloody nose as an excuse and scaring everybody. Because it's like, hey, it's better. Because if I just had the bloody nose, you'd be scared about it. But this way, you're a little relieved because you thought I was dead. And I'm like, I'm not. So it makes everything a little better. Kind of subtracts even from the bloody nose situation. She does it multiple times. I even love that one time Liv, she's like, oh, I'm pulling from the well too much, aren't I? And Liv was like, yeah, you're lucky I like a dark, repetitive humor. And it's sad. Legitimate, kind of a little choked up even right now. I just finished up the episode not like right before recording this, so I am still a little choked up a little bit, especially that message at the end. It's like obviously we didn't get to see all the time with her. Obviously she only was in the show for a couple episodes, but like obviously they spent good enough time. They binged all the Zombie High together, and because the crazy thing is, like, Ravi was almost like a big brother to her, because obviously it's like everything he did was because he cared about her. And the fact of the matter is, like, even being a genie, and it's just like, oh, like he wanted to make whatever wish she wanted come true, which obviously he never got the chance to, but you know that ultimately no matter what, she was happy, because in the end, like, these are people she cared about. Like, Liv did what she could to sneak Isabel's mom into Seattle so they could be together. It's like, you didn't have to do that, but it's like her mom was worried about her and Isabel should be with her mom. Obviously, like, she would try to play it off like, no, my mom, all she's gonna do is worry about me, and it's like, but you know that made her day. And it's like, these are two very important people to her. Like, in this short amount of time, she's like, I'm lucky to have met you. I love you guys, and I always will. And I'm just like, legitimately, I'm trying to choke back the tears, dude. I had to laugh because I'm like, that stuff legitimately breaks my heart that it turned out like that. It's like, you knew it was only a matter of time, but there was a little part of me that was hoping on some level, like, just like Robbie when he went to the room, he's like, you got them fooled, but I'm a doctor. Those two, they're not a doctor. It's like, come on, just open your eyes. I was like, please let it be some trick. Or maybe like, hey, before they slide her in there, that when they pull her out, like, she'll be a zombie or something, like it had a delayed reaction or something, or, just something to keep her around, but no. And that sweet thing about Liv eating her brain was kind of a beautiful thing. She's like, at least this way I can live on, with you, It may not be forever, but at least a little part of me. And it's just like, I mean, honestly, that could be something her and Ravi share, because I don't know if, not Peyton, if she ever really knew that about Ravi, like, because of his situation, he turns part zombie like every, month. So I don't know if she ever got to really, maybe she did. But that could be something that goes forward, or I'm curious to see what the circumstances would be as to why she ultimately decides. I mean, maybe eating her brain might actually do something to Liv. It might change Liv for all we know. You never know. By eating her brain, maybe like her zombie chemistry mixes with it and it kind of cures Liv potential. I mean, that could be what they're kind of setting up with this whole situation. I mean, that's one mindset about it. So it's so, like I said, it's just so heartbreaking that things kind of played out like this. Especially because Ravi never got that chance. Because, it hits them all in different ways. Because, like, it hits Liv because like Liv wanted to turn her to a zombie but couldn't. They knew her time was up, but it still doesn't make it any easier. And Ravi is like he wanted to, make her wish come true. She wished for the infinite wishes. She wished to learn how to drive, and then he was bringing himself over to do that when he found out the news. And it's like he's never even got a chance to really say goodbye to, and it's just like. Sad, man, Obviously in this episode you have Liv having a germaphobe brain trying to lighten things up. Is the whole situation. I loved when that dude was kind of sneezing and it kind of slow mode for her and she fell backwards, and then she got up and she was kind of like wiping herself down, wiping Clive down, because everyone's getting sick in this episode. I love how when cases just kind of get inadvertently solved, like it's not like they had to try and do too much investigating. It turns out that the dude with the like medical condition of crying, he's actually the one that's the killer this episode, because he's Sheila's boyfriend and he ended up killing the dude. I guess at that point when he punched through the glass, maybe Sheila wasn't around, so she didn't know, or maybe Sheila was just covering for her boyfriend, because he's a very sensitive dude. Like he talks to. Now it makes more sense when he was talking to Donnie about the whole. He's like, right, I forgot about the whole thing. You being kind of sensitive about the whole. He's like, hey, women who have large breasts shouldn't be like, taking advantage of, in the sense of like, using their breast against them, in the sense of trying to use, because obviously Donnie was using that for like hashtags and stuff like that, and it's like women can't control the size of their breast, and it's like that's why he's kind of sensitive about the subject, because his wife has got big boobs, and he was just defending the honor of his wife because the dude Vince was dressing up as his wife and everything, kind of making fun of her. It's like, you don't do that, and Vince kind of getting up in his face, like giving a middle finger and stuff like that, set the dude off. So interesting, because now he's in trouble, which now that means Blaine and Donnie are down the big muscle dude. Not unless they try to work this over with Chase. I mean, that really depends on them. I'm sure Chase isn't going to make any like promises, especially with things kind of going down with Angus this episode. I love that Donnie's trying to direct him into things. He's like, yo, kind of like, start at a 3 and work your way up to an 11. And Angus is just kind of like, he's like, or not, that's just one man suggesting. Holds out the fist to bump fist and is like, nah. It's like, okay. So Angus does his thing, which that situation just makes the whole situation in Seattle much worse, because he's inciting all the zombies to kind of rise up. It's just like, why wait? Eventually all the humans are going to treat you like Frankenstein's monsters. Like, why wait till that? Why not strike now while the iron is hot? It's like, take this time to rise up. They are nothing but food, essentially, so... Which you had the whole situation where Peyton being mayor and everything, she's going to go to DC for a few days to try and make things better, because it's like, if she doesn't, like, things are going to get bad. DC's just looking for any excuse to nuke Seattle, and this is just going to make matters worse, so you also have, like, obviously Fillmore Graves probably trying to keep everything under control, under wraps and stuff like that. I mean, because they went through the whole trouble of kidnapping that military dude's daughter, the dude who wanted to kind of go ahead and nuke the whole place anyway. So there's that whole situation. So that bought them some more time, but eventually that won't buy them enough time to kind of fix this entire situation. So hopefully, I mean, we're going to have to wait and see about that, but it's kind of interesting because Blaine was missing this episode, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens when it gets back. Like, was this even Blaine's decision? I mean, last time we saw it seemed like Blaine was kind of getting swept up in all of this, kind of getting caught up in his dad's message and stuff like that. Like, oh, my dad isn't the same dad anymore. He's like, oh yeah, now that he's become a zombie, and now that he kind of has this perspective on things, well, not just being a zombie, but being this zombie, being where he is now, thinking like this is God's path and God's light, that, he's a very different person. He's kind of a good father for the first time in his life. So I'm curious to see, was Blaine 100% okay with this? Was it something Donnie kind of did on his own? I get the feeling it was probably more so Blaine, but still, it's going to be interesting to see where that takes us going forward. I also got to meet Peyton's parents this episode, and I like Ravi kind of standing up for himself. He's like, yo, like, I am a doctor, Peyton's dad, so I know everything you're doing. You are not joking around, trying to have a compliment. It's like, no, you're trying to take a dig at me just to get a rise out of your daughter, so like, you should stop there, like, now. Peyton appreciated, and I love that Peyton's mom just kept drinking, just like, like, this food is so good, isn't it? But I think in the end, like, her dad kind of appreciates, he's like, okay, you're kind of a good guy. It's interesting because he brings up the whole conversation of humans versus zombies. Well, he doesn't call them zombies, he calls them monsters and everything. To be fair, it's kind of interesting because because they don't know about Ravi's situation. I'm sure it'd be a little awkward if that was the case. But they suggest that Peyton leave and not come back because of the whole threat of nuclear, because even if not, like, the city's kind of doomed anyway. And honestly, Ravi kind of agreed. And even at that moment where Ravi and Liv were seeing Peyton off, and she's like, guys, I'm going to be back. You know, just in a few days you'll see. And it's just kind of like that could foreshadow a lot. You know, it's like, I mean, because also the thing is, like, who knows that Seattle will be here when she's trying to come back? Who knows what kind of condition Seattle might be in when she comes back? You know, so we'll see. She might not have an option of coming back when the time comes. You know, so. I don't know. Like I said, this episode overall was just kind of sad all across the board, actually. Because also we had the whole situation with, like, I thought that was kind of neat, bringing Major into this whole situation and the whole setup and everything. And he's feeding, AJ ends up feeding him the brain of this dude that they basically, because they kind of tortured him for so long, they kind of like zapped him every time he told a lie. So now his brain was kind of conditioned to like always tell the truth. So that's how they test out people. And then Major was kind of spitting out everything. I was like, oh yeah, because he doesn't need to anymore, does he? Because it's like, yeah, this whole thing has to be a setup. It's like, yep, and it was, and they were all brought down. And he's like, hey, look at my team. Like 3 out of 4 people on my team are super good. And like Gladwell's like, shut up, Major. You know, and you had the dude looking, I think he was kind of almost being like, which 3/4 of us is good? I'm sure that was kind of the question that was being asked. But everything was good. Chase is celebrating. It's like, yeah, I'm partying it up. Yeah, we did say, yeah, Major. But then his 2 subordinates come in and it's like, yeah, Russ got away. He ended up rustling one of their guns away from them and ended up escaping. Chase was like, so whose gun was it? Major's like, no, it was my fault. Whose gun was it? And Gladwell admitted it was hers. He pulls his gun out and shoots her. Nothing deadly, but the dude, because he cares about her, ends up shooting at Chase, ends up nicking his neck, and in response, he shoots, and the bullet ends up hitting his head. And Major's over there holding Gladwell, and like all Chase can do is walk away. Because Chase is under a lot of pressure. Like I said, this whole situation, it's circumstances he didn't want to be in. Like I said, these circumstances were forced to him by the betrayals last season that kind of led everything being zombie central this season, you know? So it's kind of sad that things played out that way, but like that dude's dead. Him and Gladwell kind of had that complicated relationship because he was really into her, but it seems like she kind of had her reservations when it came to him for whatever reason. We still don't really know why. We'll probably find out now because it might be like a regret situation, like I should have done something. And I'm curious to see what Major does going forward because it's like, yeah, Chase is losing his damn mind because he's out of control. Like, yeah, because he was all happy and fine one moment, but the moment he found things didn't play out the way he wanted them to, like Russ is on the loose now and he's armed, it pissed him off. I mean, to be fair, it's not like Russ is all that smart, but, you know, he's a cornered animal. That's most likely when they're dangerous, so... But, like, to punish him, like to be fair, he was shooting them, but obviously it's like, no, this is the girl I care about, like, stop shooting her. And, you know, Major tried to stop Chase in time, but it wasn't. So I'm curious to see what he will do. Will he try to wrestle? Like, obviously, I'm sure a lot of the board members will be like, yeah, Chase can't be trusted. He's kind of lost his mind. Because everyone from freaking Fillmore Graves saw him do that. They saw him lose his shit like that, lose control like that. And it's like, dude, like, who's to say none of us might be next? Like, who's to say he won't just kill us? We already know he's not above killing other zombies. Obviously, that's for punishment, but it's like, we mess up. We're potentially going to die for that? Bump that. So they might leave Fillmore Graves, or the head honchos, kind of like the higher-ups, might decide to try and vote him out. And then it's going to be the situation of like, well, where does Major stand? Will he be loyal to Chase after everything? Part of me wonders, will he decide to live with this whole renegade situation that might ultimately what ends up mending the fences? I mean, it's still going to be a complicated situation. I don't know if he's going to jump to that or not. Maybe it's going to take certain events kind of play out for him to do that, but still. He might not believe in Fillmore Graves or this whole Chase situation anymore just because of what Chase did like that. Like I said, they might even set it up where we might have Major becoming, like Chase might get put on ice just because it's like, you know, he gets usurped. A coup is held. I mean, to be fair, we see that Jacques is going to a lot of those, like, brother love meetings, so there's already a little dissension amongst the ranks, so it's definitely going to be interesting going forward, because obviously, like, you know, Major's going to try and balance everything out, which is probably potentially going to butt him and live even further apart, because like they're already on opposite sides. They're going to be on the most extreme of opposite sides if Major becomes the new head of Fillmore Graves, because it's like, oh, she's the head honcho of the resistance, he's the head honcho of, God, what would be the appropriate word for Fillmore Graves in that metaphor? Nevertheless, so it's going to be interesting to see what they ultimately do with that. Another thing too is the whole Dale and Clive situation. I guess because when she originally looked at the recording, she only got up to that point. I guess Clive never thought about like it being their conversation being caught. I guess he wasn't really all that concerned about it being listened to because he didn't think about it. But Dale ended up playing it back, and I guess she never heard it back that far, and she heard the whole conversation. So she lies to Clive and is like, "Oh yeah, I met someone else," but he's like, "That's against the rules." And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna go pack up the records of my stuff," and she hugs him. Clive is just mad because it's like, okay, like she met someone else. It's like, no, she found out the truth. She found out how you really feel, that basically there could be no future for you because you want what she can't offer you. You can't adopt children in the state that you're in. You can't be intimate, so that's too much stacked against her. Like, to be fair, it's a hard relationship. How do you balance that? So Dale sacrifices everything, makes it because she knows if Clive finds out that that's the reason why she's breaking up with him, that she knows he's going to try and make it up to her. He's going to try and sacrifice his own happiness to be with her, and she doesn't want to do that. So she wants to kind of play the bad guy so that she can kind of set Clive free, so he doesn't have to walk away with any hurt feelings, like blaming himself or anything. It's like this way, kind of leave him with a clear conscience about, you know, being with Michelle, which we see that kind of happening. But obviously, it doesn't sit right with him. So, I mean, the sad thing is because it's kind of like Michelle's kind of a rebound. But I think Michelle, you know, she sees where things are between Clive and Dale, and it's kind of like she wasn't down for that before, but her and Clive kind of hit it off and everything. And now I think maybe she's looking forward to it. Like, no, this could be something real. So we'll see ultimately what happens. Like, well, I get the feeling it's probably going to most likely be like the cop that ended up with, that was the detective dude that was in there with her. Most likely it's going to be a situation of he goes and talks to Clive about it, and then Clive finds out that way. It's like, yeah, heard about the whole conversation. It's like, how'd you hear about it? It's like, me and Dale. And it's like, Dale heard? And then he'll probably piece it together, which might compromise his relationship with Michelle. So like I said, I was so curious what they were going to do with Michelle, especially because the whole situation of like, especially I was like, oh, is it that what her character's about? And then it's like, oh no, like she finds out about, you know, Clive's situation because he explained it, but she was like, yeah, that's not for me. And then they kissed and everything. So it's just, it's a complicated situation. All right. Like, legitimately, this is just like a sad episode all around. But like I said, that whole Isabel situation, I'm better now, but that still is rotting in the back of my head. So, like, still a great episode. Very sad, but still a great episode. I'm very interested to see where all of this takes us in the next episode. I wonder, will Robbie continue working on Isabel's body or not? Like, I mean, they were trying to do a lot of stuff while she was alive, but I think they would probably still do some tests while she's gone, but I'm sure even they are probably taking their time. I mean, they might not be able to do any more either. I'm curious about Isabel's mom, too. You'd probably go and plan a funeral and stuff like that, everyone invited. So I'm just curious to see what ends up happening in the next episode with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good